Hi, welcome back to South Carolina after a 48-hour trip to Vegas to see Backstreet Boys. Yeah, I want it that way. I call this one the party line test, a counter-attitudinal abridge. So immediately after seeing the readings and this sort of double speak, double think, Orwellian 1984 idea of dissonance, I thought of how reporters ask um, partisans of different political events questions based on quotes from politicians. And then, after they have given a very elaborate review, they then switch it and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I made a mistake. That is from the person that you enjoy." And then to see the mental gears switch and then try to flip the script and make it seem reasonable or admirable is what I'm going after. So here's how I would set it up. The target behavior is, of course, party over policy bias, and we're evaluating based on the status of the messenger rather than the content. So my hypothesis is that if we take people through that flip and then ask them to defend a position in their own words, we get more than sort of a partisan reflex. We should get real lasting belief change. So here's how it kind of works. We recruit strongly identified partisans and screen each one for a political figure or identity that they genuinely dislike, which should be easy in South Carolina. We show them a real policy statement and attribute it to the disliked figure. They rate it. Predictably, of course, it's going to score low. Then we tell them we made an attribution error. Oh my gosh, we made a mistake. That the quote actually came from their own party's leader. The research on dominant messengers tells us is someone they're primed to defer to, even if they don't sort of admit it in public. So the part that matters for volition. Nothing after the correction is required. Key. We tell partisans or participants that the next step, writing a short defense of the position, is entirely optional. And we pay everyone the same flat amount, regardless of whether they do it or not. So that removes sort of any incentive as an excuse. If they choose to write, great. If not, well, you don't have to. So, done. Next step, triggering and measuring. So for participants who opt in, the task is pretty simple. Write 2 or 3 sentences defending the position as if you are writing talking points for your own leader's press conference. So now we have to defend against the person that we just gave a very hard time to. So we're flipping the script, right? So this is the dissonance trigger. Minutes earlier, they just sort of gave the very opposite idea. So now we're asking them to do the very opposite and defend themselves. We raise the stakes slightly by telling them that the strongest responses may be shared anonymously in later rounds of the study. So that's going to give the inconsistency a real future consequence instead of letting it evaporate and sort of, here's money, you did it, great, and they put the pin down. All right. So we're going to measure in 3 places, right? Their first initial rating right after the disliked politician comments. Second, their rating immediately after writing the defense. And then lastly, the one that actually tests the theory, a follow-up rating after all of this has been processed, maybe 2 or 3 weeks later. Same statement, no political attribution whatsoever. No names attached to it. So we're going to see, did they flip their opinion or did they hold consistent to the beliefs they wrote down? So success would look like this. The group that wrote the defense holds a significantly higher bond, right? They have more personal investment. They delayed rating that a control group who got the same correction, but they never wrote anything. And the people who reported the most discomfort right after the correction should be the ones who shifted the most, which tells us the mechanism is dissonance. They had the most sort of internal harm from attitude and behavior. So not just going along with the researcher, although those studies were shocking. No pun intended, by the way. So here are the ways that this could backfire. Participants might sense that they were set up, and instead of resolving dissonance about the privacy and policy, they get angry at us for the trick, which shuts the whole process down. I think that's happening a lot. People are trying to outthink everything. Some might write a defense that is technically compliant, but very hollow, checking the box without actually believing anything that they're saying. Sort of a classic dissonance escape routine, trivializing the whole process instead of actually like exploring it. But people who submit to high status messengers more freely in private than they will ever admit to out loud. So we could end up measuring a performance for us, not a real change in them. So what I like about this design is that it does not ask people to abandon their team. And, you know, I have a team, you have a team, we all have teams. I'd like to see people abandon their teams and join my team, but that's not the whole point. And the more that this sort of communication class progresses, the more I see the validity of it everywhere. So thanks for that. However, so if we go back to the basics and use those three principles to defend arguments and create counter arguments in a process that actually allows us to speak meaningfully in a way that actually persuades others. And I don't think you need to persuade people. I think you just need to make people feel something. And in doing so, the feeling sort of helps persuade them. And to be honest, I had no intention of seeing the Backstreet Boys. But I'm not going to say I didn't feel something when they sang "I Want It That Way," and there were thousands of people singing it along, and I knew the song. It does something to you, it moves you, right? So I think what you're getting at is that this whole communication process isn't sort of breaking down people into isolated pockets, but rather understanding that all individuals have isolated pockets, and that we need to, as a whole, understand that we're all one whole of many different parts. And so you can activate a part, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to activate the person. And so what I think this whole course has been about is the bigger picture, which I respect. Because for the longest time, we've been focused on such small individual niche things, especially in academia, that is so outlandish to other people, that when I try to communicate what I am doing to them, or what I'm learning, they sort of shut off immediately instead of realizing the awesomeness of what College of Charleston is representing. So I know I'm not very succinct in sort of polishing my communication techniques. However, this one's going to run long. I'm sorry. I keep doing that. What I want you to understand is that I've gained the most from this course because well, not only do we have to work for it ourselves, but we kind of have to bridge a lot of different gaps, like Nevada and Arizona. We kind of have to dam it to collect all that energy and make use of it. So again, pardon the pun, but man, my life is really connecting right now with all the things that are coming together. So I think this is a really cool study. I think it definitely looks at dissonance. I don't think I ended it well. I sort of transitioned back to Backstreet Boys, but I think you might appreciate that. And if not, no worries. Thanks for this class. It was fun.